are the DBMS security guidelines? So you run the DBMS behind a firewall, but plan as though that the firewall has been breached. Meaning, you put in security measures that you would not put in case a firewall was present. So you try to put in additional security measures so that even if your firewall is breached, your DBMS is safe. Then apply the latest operating system and DBMS service packs and fix. So this is a very important and ongoing process for any organization. As and when the patches are released by the security patches or other patches are released by the vendors of the operating system and DBMS, the organization should ensure that they are applied after due testing, and then that the database or your OS is current always. Then use the least functionality as possible. That is, you support fewer network protocols possible. So only what is required to be configured, you configure. What is not required, disable it. Delete unnecessary or unused system stored procedures which will be there within. Then disable default logins and guest users. So it is that if possible should be compulsorily you have to disable default logins and guest users. Only authorized users should be allowed into the system. And default credentials are the first attempt for any hacker who will try to go and see if a default credential is used. Now if there is a default credential, then his access is very easy. Then unless required, never allow all users to log on to the DBMS interactively. So any interaction from the user should be to the front end and not directly to the database. And then you have to physically and logically protect the computer that runs the database management system. That means no user allowed to work at the computer that runs the DBMS. And DBMS computer should be physically secure behind locked doors, or it should be secured in a data center with proper access control mechanisms. Then access to the room containing the DBMS computer also should be recorded in a log. So whenever somebody enters, if it is a proximity card sensor or biometric, the log will be available. If it is an ordinary log, then there should be a register kept where it should be noted who accessed, what time, why, how much time he was there with his signature and contact info or employee ID. Then manage the accounts and passwords. That is, use a low privilege account for database management services. Don't use system admin SA account or root account always. Use a low privilege user account. For DBMS service itself, don't run it as root. Protect database accounts with strong password. So follow the password criteria, minimum 8, alphanumeric, special. Then monitor the failed login attempts. The unsuccessful attempts to log in should be monitored to see whether it is really the person who has done or somebody has been trying to hack in. Here, it is notable that you should also lock out the attempts after 3 unsuccessful attempts or 5 unsuccessful attempts, so that the administrator or the person involved in the administration of database will come to know that the account has been locked due to either an attempted hack or somebody else from within trying to penetrate the system. Then frequently check group and role memberships. Who is there in what group, what role they have, so that has to be checked. Then you audit accounts with null password or no password frequently. Assign accounts the lowest privilege as possible, so don't give too many privileges. Then limit DBA account privileges. So the database administrator should be given privileges on, again, need to know and need to do, nothing beyond that. Let's take an example of the row level access. Now the row level security restricts the user access at the record level, row level. It restricts user access to view or modify the rows of data. So that means when you implement a row level security, it restricts the user at the record level. So that means if it is specified there that he can access only this and this record, he will be able to do that only. And that too, it will restrict the user access to view or modify the rows of data. If he is the owner of the data, he will be allowed to modify it. Otherwise, he may be able to view the data. If he is not both, then it may not permit that access at all. So, application security also plays an important part when your DBMS is being repaired. If DBMS security features are inadequate, then additional security code could be written in the application program itself. So, application security in the internet application is often provided on the web server computer. You should know what is a web-based application. Web servers, there are different kinds. You can run on Unix, you can run on Windows. IIS is a kind of web server. Apache is a kind of web server. Nginx is a kind of web server. Tomcat. So you should know that additional security features can be built on these web servers, the applications, to additionally protect your database. But the primary thing is you should use the DBMS security features first. So it should be, you should secure on both the places, but secure your DBMS first. The closer the security enforcement is to the data, the less chances are there for infiltration. Then DBMS security features are faster, it is cheaper, and it will also result in higher quality results than developing your own algorithm or your own security feature. To protect database from these kinds of threats, you can have, or we have discussed some of those. There are 4 types of security that can be done. One is access control, then inference control, then it is flow control, and then encryption. Let's see another example of a security breach at TJ Maxx. It is considered to be the largest database security breach. IPLogs, a compliance and database security company, estimated that TJX breach will eventually cost the company $100 per lost record, or a total of $4.5 billion US. Now, the company based the estimate on the accumulated cost of fines, the legal fees, notification expenses, brand impairment. More details of this particular breach is available in the link given provided in this slide. You can take a look at it. Like we discussed, any database usage, whether it is Oracle, Microsoft SQL, Sybase, IBM DB2, or MySQL, the common vulnerabilities which affect them are default and weak passwords, denial of service and buffer overflows, misconfigurations, and privilege management issue, that is giving excessive privileges. So it is common across all databases. It doesn't affect a single database vendor. How do you do a database audit? So auditing is the process of tracking who accesses the database and what are the resources accessed. It is done or evidenced by writing to a log file. So at the time of creation of database, the logging requirements, what is to be logged is also checked. Basically, what is tracked? User login, logout. What is the data accessed? What is the privilege level given to the user? And the patch status. So these are the 4 things that are tracked. Again, there are several tools available to audit the database itself. There are Oracle auditing tools. Then there is a tool by McAfee itself for auditing database. Enforcive is another tool. Softtree is another tool. Apex SQL is another tool. DB Audit. So there are several tools also available to audit the databases. So we have discussed a brief about what database security is, what are the measures we can secure the database, what are the methods by which the data can be stolen, some of the biggest database hacks, and then finally how we audit the database. With this, we will end the database section and move on to SAP security. Now, SAP stands for Systems, Applications, Products. The most crucial aspect in a SAP security is the segregation of duties. Now, many organizations see SAP as a specialist software requiring similarly specialist resource with SAP experience. While it's true that most organizations require some form of assistance from SAP expert to implement the software itself, there are a number of ways in that an in-house security resource and personnel can contribute to the implementation and maintenance of a secure SAP environment. Security is the first and foremost concern in any SAP audit. There should be proper segregation of duties and access control, which is paramount to establishing the integrity of controls for the SAP system. When a company first receives SAP, it is devoid or it does not have any security measures, or it is devoid of almost all security measures. At the time of implementation of SAP, the company must go through an extensive process of outlining their processes, building their system security from ground up for what to ensure proper segregation of duties and proper access. Proper profile design and avoidance of redundant user IDs, super user access will be an important phase of all parts of the operation in an SAP environment. So along with this comes the importance of ensuring restricted access to terminal servers and restricted access to the data center to prevent tampering. Now, different organizations have different modules of SAP installed. So every company or organization's security structure will be distinctly different from the other because of the number of modules that they have implemented. But the underlying fact is your segregation of duties should be enforced properly in a SAP environment, like all other environments, so that your SAP security can complement or can enhance the security of your overall IT infrastructure. SAP itself has got several modules where the security settings have been set at default and you can set your own setting. So a lot of it is parameterized right from your logging requirements to your password strength to what can be logged. So there are a lot of features built into SAP software. There are also specific SAP vulnerability assessment tools like Analysis available in the market to do a vulnerability assessment or penetration testing in a SAP environment. Then there is something called the SAP router itself, which interacts with all the SAP servers which are present. Then ISACA itself has brought out a COVID checklist for auditing a SAP infrastructure. So there are several methods of conducting the audit for SAP. But what you have to remember is whenever you audit the SAP environment, apart from your password criteria and initial login, the most important aspect to check is segregation of duties, whether it has been done properly. Any failure on implementing proper segregation of duties will bring the entire system down in terms of somebody misusing the system. Then when you look at desktop security, what do you basically implement? Again, as we have discussed throughout, proper password controls, update your systems properly, install an antivirus software, enforce the built-in firewalls in your Windows system, lock your computer when you go out, keep your password strong, enable logging in the desktop application, or route it to a log management server. Keep your security patches or update all the required patches on the system. Keep your Microsoft Office updates proper. So basically whatever you do to protect the server, and then if possible encrypt the data on your laptop. So there are several methods to secure. We have gone through all the measures. Desktop is no different. So you need to protect your desktop as you would protect a server, because anybody with a physical access to your location and a weakly configured desktop can still access your server and create havoc. With that, we come to the end of module 4. In module 5, we will talk about Windows and Linux security. We hope that you have gathered a lot of information from module 4 or the basics of what needs to be done